Hi there. Today my dog Rascal and I are going to talk to you about Madison's 10th Federalist. Well, to be frank, Rascal's not going to talk very much, but I will. So let me set the context for you, and well, maybe she will talk to you a little bit about Madison's 10th Federalist. Let me set the context so that you can get a better understanding of what's going on. The Articles of Confederation are in existence as the document that's guiding the national government. But government at the national level isn't working very well, and that's because the national government has very little power. It has no power to tax, and therefore it has no power to do most of what government should do, including the raising of an army. And this becomes really apparent when there are several rebellions that occur in the states, most notably Shays' Rebellion in Connecticut, and the national government is essentially powerless to put down this rebellion. And it's really at the mercy of the states, asking the states to give revenues to the national government, but it has no power to force the states to do so. So, some of the original writers of the Articles meet in Annapolis to rework the Articles in order to create a more powerful national government, but in the end they decide to scrap the entire Articles of Confederation and to rewrite a document and create a new constitution. They do so, but the stipulation is that 9 out of 13 states will have to ratify this new constitution for it to become in force. So the authors of the Federalist Papers, who are John Jay, James Madison, and Alexander Hamilton, they begin to write essays that are published in newspapers largely in New York and Philadelphia, and these essays attempt to persuade the readers to support and ratify the new constitution. So that's the purpose of these essays known as the Federalist Papers. One thing I didn't mention is that these three authors typically sign their name anonymously under the pseudonym of Publius. Now, I'd like to take a look at one of the first passages in the 10th Federalist. And on the very first page, in that first column, Madison writes, "Complaints are everywhere heard from our most considerate and virtuous citizens, equally the friends of public and private faith, and of public and personal liberty, that our governments are too unstable, that the public good is disregarded in the conflicts of rival parties, and that measures are too often decided not according to the rules of justice and the rights of the minor party, but by the superior force of an interested and overbearing majority." Madison is worried about what majority rule can actually do in a democracy. I think most of us would agree. Majority rule is a reasonable way to come to a decision on an issue. However, what happens when the majority creates policy or passes laws that violate the rights of others? How do we protect against that from happening? And that's really the focus of Madison's concerns. And in particular, he's worried about factions. And I ask you to identify and define, explain what a faction means. In Madison's words, he says, "By a faction, I understand a number of citizens, whether amounting to a majority or minority of the whole, who are united and actuated by some common impulse of passion, or of interest adverse to the rights of others, or to the permanent and aggregate interests of the community." So, actuated by a common impulse of passion. Actuated simply means they act based upon a similar interest or passion. And I want you to tell me what adverse to the rights of citizens means. And that's very important to the understanding of this essay and to doing well in your assignment. Madison talks about ways in which we can handle the problem of factions. He says that there are two methods of curing the mischiefs of faction. You can remove its causes, and he gives two ways of doing that, and I'd like you to tell me, are they reasonable ways to cure the mischief of factions? Is it reasonable to remove the causes? There's also the prospect of controlling its effects. And Madison says very clearly that one of these two avenues is the better path to pursue. Madison goes on to say that democracy, or pure democracy, provides no cure for the mischief of factions, but instead a republic provides that cure. And he goes on to say that the definition of a republic and what distinguishes it from a democracy is precisely the thing that will cure the problem of factions. Now, bear in mind that at the writing of the 10th Federalist, the United States had a national government, but it was very weak. And so we essentially had 13 states acting independently of one another under a loose confederation. And so the real power resided in state government. And you can think perhaps of each state acting like its own democracy. Now, a pure democracy means, of course, everyone participates in all decision making. And that is not really what is going on in the 13 individual states. But you can think of, as you begin to discover the differences between a democracy and a republic, think of the individual states as something a little bit like a pure democracy. And Madison talks about some of the problems that can take place and the likelihood of factions arising in a pure democracy, and why a republic reduces the likelihood of a faction carrying out its will. So let me just conclude by again reminding you that the key to the answer of solving the problem of factions resides in the distinction between a republic and a pure democracy. So good luck with your essay, and I'll talk to you soon.